hello everyone. Nice to see all of you. I hope you're having a great con. My name is Michal Malek. I am the creator of Zarnia Games and Geekery, and I found some amazing geeks to chat to us today that are going to be talking to us about where to start your content creation journey, stuff that we are experiencing currently. We have content creators of various stages in their content creation journey here, from absolute beginners who are doing incredible work to established content creators like Nick over here who are also doing incredible work, and then Shadley and I who are in between. I'm going to start with one by one. You guys can introduce yourselves, your channel, what you do, and then we'll take it off from there.
Hi, so I'm Shadley Desai and I run CoffeeXControlles. I don't know if you've seen, like, my page has been covering a lot of Comic-Con. Yeah, and basically we just cover a lot of retro games and our experience with retro games.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicholas Van Jay. I'm on TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter, and Instagram. I do gaming content, primarily gaming content, but I also do sort of a hybrid between social commentary and comedy. And I think I'm funny, so it works out for me either way. Thank you. Yeah, I like to hear that. You can tell me more later. And you can find me at Nicholas Van Jay on any of those platforms, and Twitch gaming, and then everything else kind of spread out around my TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram.
Okay. Hi, we're from NatOne Magazine. We are a printed medium, as you can see, and we cover every little thing in this geek space, in tabletop gaming, from board games to TCGs.
To streaming on like Twitch and stuff.
We stream on Twitch, and yeah, we're new to this. Yeah.
This is the beginner corner.
Cool. We only have 2 mics, so it's going to be a lot of this. Cool, so what we want to chat about is, where we're starting and what we're experiencing, and just kind of want to talk to you, Shadley, what made you go into this genre, into this world of games and geekery? What do you do? What are you currently doing, and why did you start?
Okay, so let's start with why. It's just like, I love the stuff. Like, I can't deny it's a passion of mine. Gaming is just something that's been with me my entire life. And it's something I like sharing with other people, like why I love gaming. And then, basically why I started. So this is going to reveal all the older ones here in the audience. Do any of you remember a show called Cybernet? So that was way back when, and it was my first exposure to video game journalism on TV. And 10-year-old me was like, cool, I can make this a profession. So this is basically me fulfilling 10-year-old me's ambition. That's what it is.
Same question, hey? Okay. So I got started with content creation primarily in the gaming space because I'm originally from Zimbabwe. I grew up in a very small town called Victoria Falls. And as one could imagine, in a small town of that nature, there's not a lot to do. So when I was a kid, my mom is this I prolific businesswoman. She's in politics, she's a workaholic, so I didn't get to spend a lot of time with her. And the way that we would bond is I would stay up so late as a little boy just to see her when she came home from work at random hours of the evening. And we'd pop in Tomb Raider into my PlayStation 1, and we'd sit and take turns. Every time I died, she would take over. And my mom's a hardcore gamer, actually. True story, it got so bad. She used to play Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Mega Drive so much that my dad was like, I will divorce you if this does not stop because it's taking over your life. And back then you couldn't save. So she used to make my sisters continue the game while she went back to work. And if they died and lost the saving, big trouble. Yeah, totally. And whenever we get stuck on a stage, she would drive through the literal bush, because we lived in a national park, through elephants and all kinds of things in the middle of the night to get to her office, get onto the dial-up, because that's how old I am, and print walkthroughs, because that's what you used to have to do back then. So for me, gaming was a way to bond with my mom and, actually, that's pretty much it. Bonding with my mom was how I started getting into gaming. And I also have pretty debilitating ADHD, so gaming was a way for me to help kind of regulate my concentration, because ADHD is a dysregulation of dopamine, and gaming helps regulate dopamine. And so that's always been like a big passion of mine. And so when I moved to South Africa, it was very important for me to find community, because in Zimbabwe, a lot of people might not know this, it's illegal today as well to be gay in Zimbabwe. And so when I moved to South Africa and I realized that, I came out and realized that that was part of my journey, it was very important for me to find like-minded people and build a community around that. And I've been very lucky to have cultivated a very special community of people who make me feel like home, and that's what gaming means to me. Yeah.
We are originally PC gamers, so we kind of converted to the TTRPG space.
Yeah, when we first started playing Magic the Gathering and D&D, and then we couldn't stop talking about it to my dad, and then since he does publishing, he was like, why not just make a magazine? We're like, that sounds like an interesting idea. So
yeah, we kind of combined our creativity with his a lot of our creativity with his expertise.
Yeah, and so we ended up creating this, but as it continued, we realized that this is such a good way for the local market to grow here in South Africa.
Yeah, the reason why we made this nationwide was because South Africa needs something of its own.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure that the local creators got their show.
It's a platform for them.
Yeah, the social media and that it's very noisy. So you can't localize it down. So this is something that we hope that all social content creators in South Africa can use to grow their own creative industry.
Yeah, we're just here to kind of support that, and this is mainly like also a showcase of our nerdness in all fields.
While we were creating this magazine, we were also like, this is so cool. We were like, yes, this is actually something that we would have really wanted.
The first time when it came out to the printer, they were like, whoa, this is so cool. So yeah, we were just, with gamers in general, our dad's the mega gamer, and that kind of trickled down.
Yeah,
that trickled down to us, hiding in the background. Yeah, so yeah.
I mean, what I love about this is that you're hearing a golden thread of passion, of community, of support for that community. And, that's why we're all here. That's why Comic-Con exists, is because we are all coming together as a community to support one another, to celebrate one another. And it's so, I've literally got goosebumps. Like, it's great to see that is why people want to be involved in this community. We've talked about why you started, but the question is now, how did you start? Because that's the difficult thing. It's like where do you start? You just have to do something. So where did you start? What were you using in the beginning of your journey? Not everyone starts with like amazing gear and cameras and ideas. Some people are they pick up a phone and they start doing a selfie video. Where did your journey begin?
Michal, that's a really difficult question actually, because that starts 10 years ago, and I think it was just a friend of mine and we were just like, okay, we're just gonna do movie reviews, and it was just this perpetual putting out of content. You and I studied together, and we have a background in film and television production, so the production elements come to you really naturally. You have that background, you have the skill set, so you can put it together. And nowadays we have the platform. You have TikTok, you have YouTube, Instagram. You have all these platforms which are free to use and to build something. Back in the old days, you only had broadcast, and so now it was all about now you can actually put something out there and let it grow. And for me, it started about 10 years ago, and it was just we're just gonna try this one thing, and then we drifted apart from a content creation perspective, because you obviously have to still work a job. You can't just give up your job to take this on. And I just kept perpetually trying different things. And last year, I worked on a show called Social Gaming and Coconuts with Yasin Barnes, who I'm working with now. And that show dissolved, but we were like, look here, we know each other. We can put our own version of this together. And we had a connection at Jinx. So we were like, okay, let's try and punt an idea, see if it works. And from that, like, they were like, okay, we're interested, but we also have a backlog of stuff we're going to do. And so we were just like, okay, we're just going to shoot stuff and put it out there, and we're not going to care about it being perfect. We're just going to start putting something out there. So we had this like Game of the Year, retro Game of the Year kind of angle that we took. And slowly but surely, it's been constantly evolving, and that is sort of what you need to do. You need to take that first step. Even if it's an unrefined idea, you know, it's better than nothing. Like, if you're going to refine this idea and then you put it out and you're going to get like 100 views, it's going to be quite deflating. So just put yourself out there, use what you have at hand, and like go for it.
My approach to starting content creation is quite simple, because there's no one size fits all. Everyone is different. Everyone's approach to content is different, and the kind of content that people like is different. But the one thing they all have in common, at least from my experience, is that in order to be successful at anything you do, you have to be your own biggest fan. You have to love what you make, right? Because I always get so many people, and it really breaks my heart, actually. I see so many people, especially at conventions like this, you know, if someone comes up to me and says, oh, I follow you on this platform, and I love what you do, I could never do that. And it blows my mind, because I'm like, yes, you can. There's nothing particularly special about what I do or anyone who does what I do. You know, it doesn't take much more than just really being passionate, because I feel like what a lot of people focus on, and what puts a lot of burgeoning content creators off when they start, is they focus more on the prospect of not having their content liked than the people who will like their content, because it actually doesn't matter who's not going to like your content, because they're not going to support you anyway. If I had to focus on all the kinds of people that didn't like the content that I make, I would never make anything, honestly. But being your own fan is the best way to start, and it doesn't take much more than, if there's something in your life, or if you have a thought one day where you're like, I really wish someone would ask me about this, because I would love an opportunity to talk about this. If you're passionate about something, turn that into content. You know, if you're a Dungeons and Dragons player, for example, and you have like a board, you know, or you paint minis, you know, make content about that. Even if it's just taking pictures and posting that on your Instagram, putting a little cute caption. Not everything has to be Picasso. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just a little bit of your passion spread out over a bit of time on your platforms, and it's going to be slow, you know. A lot of people say like, oh, I posted this for a week and it's only got 3 likes, and it's like, start that way. Everyone does. And also the nature of content creation is so mercurial. Like one day, you know, you're on TikTok and you're big on TikTok, and then TikTok either gets closed down, as is the case with maybe America at the moment, who knows, or something else comes along, a bigger platform maybe, and then you start at the bottom again. That's just how it works. But as long as you're passionate about what you do and you're your own biggest fan, that's what's important about content creation, and you'll go far with that.
How do we top that?
I don't. We got 2 brains. We can come up
All
with
right.
something.
Well, I think the one thing that we realized when we started this, and I think people, okay, how do I word this? Just start is what I'm saying. Is you can't just sit back and think, okay, maybe I should do this. What if this happens when we do this?
Or you make a video and you're like, this isn't perfect. No, the audio is not that great. Or
just start. And there's so many resources out there that you can use, and it doesn't have to be paid for even. Yeah. I mean, things like software like DaVinci Resolve, or
just anything that makes it
like
work,
GIMP.
basically.
Just do your research and then just start. And obviously do something, like you said, that you have a passion for.
And what they say kind of bleeds into the fact that it's also consistency. You have to really want it. But it's available it's easier now to even just start, because
and be everywhere. Don't just focus on, okay, I'm just going to do YouTube, and you just do YouTube. Use all the other social platforms, because that's what they're meant for. They're meant to bounce off each other and bring awareness to each other. So don't just focus on one thing.
Yeah, and you gotta do what you love. You can't do something or a specific content creation because that's what got the most views, that's what got the most likes. Because you got to do something, because people watch you for you. It kind of bleeds into what you say of loving yourself and, you know, being true to yourself, because people will love you for your content, not because you're copying someone else's.
Yeah, don't try to be like someone else.
Yeah.
Find, even if you think you are, okay, maybe I'm more like this person, everyone is different. You're not like that other person on YouTube or on Twitch or wherever.
That's the beauty of people.
Yeah, everyone is different. We're all unique, just like everybody else.
Yeah. And I would say also just acceptance that there's going to be times when your views are going to be low, or just accepting the start, and just having being happy with the little steps. Like, you make a tiny step, maybe you like got more views, like maybe 2 more views than before, then you're like, yes, score 1.
Yeah,
and the small wins.
You're starting at rock bottom because everybody else is also trying to go on with it. So you must just focus on yourself. Don't listen to all the other noise around you. Just focus on you. I mean, we named our magazine NatOne, which in D&D is natural one.
It's a critical failure
you can get. So we started on a critical failure.
Luckily, it didn't turn out quite like that.
Luckily, we're going up in the numbers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes,
the question was how we started, correct? How we started was basically at our grandma's house. Our very first video was in her lounge. We used all of our nerd stuff, like our MTG cards, our mats, all the dice.
We just plastered it on the wall just to make a background.
Yeah, and then we had the videos, and we recorded it so many times. By the end of it, you saw our enthusiasm went from the first clip real low to the last clip.
But we also had our cousins watching because they
so we
came
had
in as well.
We had the couches, and they were all just staring at us.
This is our first video, and we got an audience. This is awful.
Yeah, but that was the start. You gotta give yourself. You gotta give yourself some brownie points for even starting, because that's a win on its own. So we started, and we've been building since. And so I think that was...
Yeah, so use your grandma's lounge with that nice fireplace if you have to.
And just get some bravery up and just do it. If you really want to do something, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. If you want to do it, you're going to be your biggest motivator. Only you can get what you want.
Yeah.
Amazing answers. I mean, this is all nuggets of gold. I hope everyone is picking up on. It's interesting because Shadley and I were just discussing this before the panel, is that there's produced content and there's underproduced content. And when you look at stuff on TikTok, when you look at stuff on YouTube, it almost feels like if it's a little bit janky, if it's a little bit, rough around the edges, it feels more real. It feels more authentic. And because the person's not focusing so much on the way it's made, but on rather what's in it, the content is almost better. There's a realness, there's an authenticity to I'm going to use the word janky again, but like to that kind of content. So even if it's not perfect, sometimes there's perfection in that imperfection. So take that with you when you start this journey. It can just be on your phone. It can be on the most basic webcam. If you're passionate, someone out there will recognize that passion and see it in you. What I also love that you touched on was the sense of, don't target a wide audience. Don't try and be everyone's friend. Don't try and be like someone else. Be yourself, and the audience will find you. I think we term this casting not your net wide, but casting it narrow, so that. As Nick pointed out, if people don't like your content, they're never going to like your content. If they don't like you, they're not going to like you. But there are going to be people who are going to like you and who are going to like your content, and that's what's important. And yes, the first few videos are going to be, a little bit wonky. You're going to get very few likes, but there is so much on our cutting room floors that you'll never see. That we had to make so many mistakes, and you have to make mistakes in order to learn. And and that's how you end up making something and growing it is through making those mistakes. And sometimes you can pick up those mistakes and like a couple of years down the line, you're like, hey, that's great, I'm going to put it in and it's part of your journey. Let's maybe start with our NatOne publishers. As a nascent content creator, what obstacles are you facing that you didn't expect?
Well, everyone in this community has been really supportive.
Yes, they have.
I mean, when we go to people and that, they're really supportive in this community. So we didn't get any obstacles with the people themselves.
Yeah.
They're very loving and accepting.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest obstacle in what we do was probably load shedding. Just because of printing, because our production got delayed because obviously the printers, now they have to clean the machine because it's now off and everything. So I'd say material-wise, that was a struggle of ours.
Yeah. But starting off as a printed medium, and it's just ourselves and our dad, we've had to get into stores ourselves. So I say the biggest obstacle would be calling all the stores. Because when
A lot of driving.
Yeah, a lot of driving. Because we have to go to the stores. You have to make yourself known by the people there.
We want to prove we're real people and we're authentic by showing our faces in person.
We actually play MTG. We actually play D&D.
And that actually affects a lot. When people see you in person, everything becomes more real to them.
Yeah.
And they way more understanding. But the community has been so epic.
Also specifically for the magazine, getting content.
No, yeah.
But I mean, that's, a lot of research that's gone in.
It's very interactive.
But the biggest obstacle would be getting the magazine into stores.
Yeah, the production.
But we did it.
We made it.
Oh, didn't expect. It's a tough one. I think I expected too much. I think for me, so it's tricky because it kind of overlaps with stuff that I did expect. But I mentioned earlier I'm gay. Surprise. I grew up in a country where being gay is illegal, and so when I moved to South Africa, you kind of think our constitution here is actually great for human rights. So I was like, yay, safe house. But then you put yourself out there, you're on the internet. And suddenly you're like, oh, actually not. So in a way, I always expected like I would get, bigotry and hate comments. I've been like, my TikTok account's been hacked by like, not just one person, like a syndicate on Discord of people who specifically target queer content creators on TikTok and Twitch. And it was crazy. I had to get the company involved. It was a huge thing. So that was actually pretty unexpected. I didn't expect to be hacked by a syndicate. I feel pretty cool. So I guess that, but I think the thing that really I just did not expect is burnout. People don't talk about burnout with content creators. Like, content creation is such a strange place to be because there's it's not standardized. It's not a 9 to 5. It's not like, you get weekends off and holidays. If you stop working, then you stop getting paid. Or, if you are getting paid, some people obviously there's no right way to do it. Like maybe you're not getting paid and that's totally cool. But like, it's hard to know what your limit is, what you can endure, how consistent you can be. I mentioned earlier, I have ADHD. I am being treated. I'm on Ritalin, which has made such a difference to how much of my executive functions I can contribute towards content creation and how consistent I can be. But like sometimes I'll go through months where it has happened where I've just gone through whole months where I don't stream. And if you were an accountant, for example, and you just didn't come to work for months, you'd lose your job, Yeah, totally. So I think burnout and managing burnout is a pretty tricky thing with content creators, and knowing what your limits are and what you're comfortable with doing. I hear a lot of people saying like, you have to post every day, at this time, you have to stream for 72 hours. I've actually done that. It's really terrible. Yeah, it was a charity stream, and I was like, I'm done with this. You can't put your body through that. You can't put yourselves through that. And a lot of people who go into content creation, the kind of demographics that are drawn to that nature of work generally don't mesh well with the 9 till 5 lifestyle. You know, like a lot of neurodivergent people are very involved in gaming, content creation, and like for me personally, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do every single day, 9 till 5. So yeah, figuring out where your limits are was a big thing for me to figure out. That was really unexpected, but I'm getting there.
So I actually wanted to expand on what Nick said, because that was something that I struggled with. It's like the idea of content creation. It's perpetual. Like you're constantly putting out something, and when you are passionate about something, they always say like if you're passionate about something, you won't work a day in your life. Until it gets to a point where you can't shut off and everything becomes content, and that's really difficult. Like that, I actually at that point last year, because I was streaming like almost every day, and I was producing content on the side, so it's a lot to take in, and that's where I needed to take a break from gaming itself. You know, I'd kind of like lost my love for gaming for a few months, and I had to step back and then like rediscover why I enjoy gaming before like stepping into it. So it is a balance issue. Like you have to find what works for you, what is best. Yeah, and I think in South Africa, it's also, well, actually not just in South Africa, I think it's a global issue, is expectation. Expectation is the biggest problem that we all face, because you think you're going to hit that one viral video, you're going to get 1 million views, and you're made for life. And the thing that I didn't expect is actually retention, audience retention. You need to retain that audience. You get 1 million viewers, your next video needs to get 1 million viewers. You have to keep at that, so there's consistency. And I know of somebody, they started a channel overnight, they got 250,000 views. They pushed to get another video out, it barely broke 10,000. They couldn't, and like within a few weeks, they gave up on the channel because it was too difficult. And for me, then it was like, okay, this is about retention and consistency. I'd rather grow small at a small rate, but constantly, than like explode and then try and manage like the balance at the top, because it's difficult.
I mean, I've experienced something of everyone's experience. Yes, I'm not going to elaborate too much on what we've gone through in Zarnia Games and Geekery. But the burnout is real. The consistency is real. Load shedding is all real. Cool. I mean, that's kind of all we have time for today. We have maybe time for a few questions. Does anyone have any questions here?
So I have ADHD and bipolar disorder, and I'm wondering, besides the, what has your experience been, since you've mentioned you have ADHD as well, in terms of your mental health affecting your content?
So that's a great question, because it really has. I always bring up ADHD because it's easier, but I've actually been diagnosed with comorbid ADHD and ASD. But like, I don't bring it up because whenever I say that I have ASD, everyone's like, well, you don't look autistic. And I'm like, it's not a behavioral disorder, it's a cognitive thing. But anyway, yeah, it has actually. It's really difficult because, like I said, ADHD is a dysregulation of dopamine, and dopamine is what's required to motivate you to do things like the dishes, get out of bed, you know, wash your clothes, make food, things that neurotypical people don't have as hard a time doing. And so when I expend those executive resources, streaming, for example, that's a big one, or creating content, or feeling pressure to meet deadlines, especially if I'm working with brands, it can be a real killer, actually. Like, I've had times where, you know, I've taken on brand collaborations and I haven't been able to fulfill what I've needed to do for those brands in the time that they've allocated. And I've just had to email them and say, listen, I've taken on a little bit more than I can chew here, and I haven't actually had the resources to get to this in time. And brands have always been very understanding, thankfully, because I like to think that I do produce good work, so they're a little bit lenient on that front. But it's tough, and I think the terms that I like to use is when someone tells me about their diagnosis, like a bipolar or ADHD, I always say, are you tooled ADHD or are you untooled and bipolar as well? And what that means is, do you know what you need to do for yourself to help your lifestyle be more accommodating to your diagnosis? Because like what works for a neurotypical person when they don't feel like doing the dishes is not going to work for an ADHD person. Like, you know, for a neurotypical person, when I tell them like I struggle to arrive places on time or arrive to commitments or remember things, they're like, oh, you should just keep a planner or like write it in your diary. And I'm like, I can't do that, Susan. I don't have brain chemistry for that.
Yes, Susan.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So yeah, it is a big one, but I think knowing what your limits are, knowing what helps you, and really just like sticking to that. I tell people all the time, like if I have problems with something and I know that it's symptomatic of my diagnosis, I'll tell them and I'll be like, this is what I need. You know, I'll say, like a friend will say, oh, we're doing this on Sunday. And I'm like, in my mind, I have every intention of putting that in my calendar. I very likely won't though. Please message me the day before. You know what I mean? And my friends have been very accommodating with that and with work as well. So I think that's important, is to just be vocal about it.
Last question. There was one over here somewhere. Okay, one more question.
Sorry, this is just regarding gaming streamers or gaming content creation. Do you find that, especially after you've gotten burned out, you can go back to playing games that you create content on quite frequently casually? Or do you end up playing different things to relax your mind as opposed to what you create content on, because your mind's always on content with specific things?
So for me, I had to like shut down from gaming completely, because everything, like the way I was processing it is like, how can I create content from whatever I'm playing? And so like I had to cut myself off to not think that way. And one of the things I did was I got a Switch Lite where I couldn't actually record footage on there, so it actually neutralized that ability to create content. Like, so I could just enjoy the games for the sake of playing games, and that's slowly how I got back into it. But I would say like the most important thing is like remember why you love gaming. Like, not everything has to be a piece of content. Sometimes it's fine not to think about it as content. Yeah, like maybe switch up the games you're playing. You know, streaming is rough because it's 2 to 8 hours each day you're putting in playing 1 or 2 games, and it's a lot. It's taxing. So take those breaks. You know, you don't have to stream every day. You need to be consistent, which is fundamentally different. You know, if you're streaming twice a week consistently, it's better than 5 times a week. You know, and burning out like in the second week and not being able to like meet up demands. Like again, grow slowly at the pace you can manage, rather than like hating like the content you're creating at the end of the day.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for coming to our panel. So some of us we're going to be upstairs in the tabletop gaming zone, playing Dungeons and Dragons, running board games. Nick will be around, the ladies are around as well. If you want to chat to us afterwards, feel free to approach us and say hi. Thank you very much. Nice guy. Could a quick selfie while we're up here before the next guy starts. Couple times.